right, welcome everyone to the Thursday edition of Reality Check, and you know what that means. You know what time it is? It's time for City Council Live. We are awaiting the Philadelphia City Council. They should be arriving momentarily and convening virtually here on the home of Black Talk Media, WURD. Welcome to Philadelphia City Council Live, gavel to gavel coverage of the entire committee of the whole session of City Council when City Council meets as a whole, because you know they meet regularly in their various committees and capacities, and so they come together, they convene as a whole committee on Thursdays, and we capture it, gavel to gavel coverage of it here live on WURD. I'm Charles Ellis, and I'm your anchor for City Council Live, and welcome to Thursday. Happy Thursday to you. Hope everyone is doing well or doing their best out there. We're live on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, WURD TV, and WURD app as well. Let's just open up the phone lines while we wait for the Philadelphia City Council. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on City Council Live. Here on City Council Live, give me your thoughts on or your expectations on what you think you'll hear from Philadelphia City Council, what you'd like to hear from Philadelphia City Council. I know there are a number of things that I'd like to hear from Philadelphia City Council, of course, from City Hall. Many of those things you already know. So, but I'd like to hear from you at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on City Council Live. It is the Thursday edition of Reality Check, which brings you Philadelphia City Council Live. You can go to, I always implore people to go to PHL Council, phlcouncil.com online. That is the Philadelphia City Council website. Use it as a guide while you are listening into this program. It'll help you. It is a great tool to help guide you, and it'll help you understand and sort of clarify what is being discussed in Philadelphia City Council. While you're at phlcouncil.com, you look at the navigation bar. You see on the navigation bar at the top of it, legislation and hearings. Just put your mouse on that, and then you'll see this button saying that it'll be a drop-down menu, and you're going to see this button that says Legislative Information Center. The Legislative Information Center is directly at phila.legistar, legistar.com, phila.legistar.com, in case you want to take off a step, or save a step. You can go directly to the Philadelphia City Council's Legislative Information Research page at phila.legistar.com, and then you're there, click on legislation, and when you start hearing those bill numbers, those numbers that they start rattling off, and you're like, what are those numbers? What are they talking about? And it's designed for them to go fast because they don't want you to know. Like, they don't want you to understand. They keep saying they're trying to be transparent and they want you to know. All of this stuff is like when I was having that conversation during our citizen segment yesterday with Jen DeVore, and she of Better Civics, and Jen's like, yeah, this stuff is all like a racket. They we agreed, both of us were on the same page about this, and it's deliberately designed to obfuscate or to confuse you. So your weapon against that, your tool, is making full maximum use of these resources that are provided online and knowing how to get there and keeping track of it. And this is the way to keep track of it. And so the more you keep track of it and the more you know, the less energy you spend complaining and the more energy you spend discovering and finding out things. So phila.legistar.com, then click on legislation, and you got to search. It's like an open search box where you just put in the numbers. You put in those numbers, like the numbers when you hear 20013, 2000, when you hear the folks rattle off. Use this as your guide to find out, and it's fairly intuitive. So you should know, when you get there, you'll kind of understand how to use it, how to put the numbers in the search box, and then click search legislation, and then stuff will start popping up. Now, right now, if you want to see just legislation that's currently being considered right now, you leave the search box empty, the drop-down menu right next to the search box to the right of it is this year, and just click search legislation, and it opens everything up that's currently on file, that's been adopted, that's in council and awaiting final passage. So, and you'll start seeing like all those bills from right now. When you open it up, you see them from like April 15th all the way up to now, to May 6th, bills that have been placed on file or that have been adopted or that are in council and awaiting final passage. 215-634-8065-866-361. So, you know, there you go. There's a little tutorial. So hopefully we can make those tutorials and those primers more frequent. 215-634-8065-866-361-0900 as we're awaiting Philadelphia City Council to convene. We should be momentarily hearing the voice of Philadelphia City Council President Darrell Clark. So we'll wait on that. 215-634-8065-866-361-0900. I want to get your thoughts, too, on two real big discussions that took place yesterday here on WURD. One during Reality Check and one right after Reality Check, special broadcast during the source. Would love to get your thoughts, your reactions. I know some people are still giving me thoughts and reactions to yesterday's special Philadelphia DA candidates debate. Philadelphia District Attorney race is coming up, obviously, next on May 18th, next week, next Tuesday, among other races that are focused on justice, that are focused on the judicial system in Philadelphia and also throughout Pennsylvania. But the Philadelphia DA's race, people are keeping a very close eye on. It is contentious. Yesterday's debate felt contentious. There were a few interesting moments, some dramatic moments, you might describe them as in yesterday's debate, and that's good. That was healthy. So we did get a good, clear sense. I mean, we walked away from that getting a clear sense of where the candidates stand on a variety of issues. And so, you know, once again, I want to thank my colleagues, Joanne Bell and Solomon Jones, for joining me on that panel, on that debate panel yesterday. So, and want to thank you all as listeners and viewers for plugging in and tapping into it. So it was a very important conversation between incumbent DA Larry Krasner and also challenger Carlos Vega. So we'd love to get your thoughts on that, which you know, opine on it and let us know what stood out to you. So, you know, you always hear from us like what stood out to us, but I would love to see if, and was there anything that we missed? I mean, we had 90 minutes. You feel like you have a whole lot of time in conversations like that, and then the time just, it goes fast, you know, especially when the conversation is really intriguing and very, very, you know, has some highlights to it. You know, it's very dynamic. So, you know, it felt to me like it went very fast. But so, and I know that there's probably some questions on some different issues that people would have wished we could have asked that we missed. I know there were actually questions. I had a bunch of questions laid out, and there were some questions that I did not get an opportunity to ask. So because of the time, we ran out of time. So, but I think we covered a good bit in yesterday's debate. So I was real pleased with it. I was pleased of WURD's participation in this election cycle. WURD is not just, you know, a major Black-owned outlet in Philadelphia, and it's not only the only Black-owned talk radio station in Pennsylvania, in all of Pennsylvania. It is a major mainstream media outlet in the media ecosystem in Philadelphia, and the fifth largest media market in the country. So that's significant, and so it's only appropriate that a major outlet like WURD had a debate or facilitated a debate of this scale. So I'm just very proud that we were able to do that and deliver that to you. But it would be great to get your thoughts. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. So let's go to Cliff out of Connecticut, who's calling in for a reality check. Cliff.
Hey, Brother Charles, excellent job. I'm proud of you guys. You guys did an excellent job. You, Brother Solomon, and the sister. And so first, let me ask this question. Has Krasner actually increased the employment of Blacks in his office?
I mean, according to him, he he has. According to him, he was making that contrast yesterday between like his office and like the previous office, the previous DA.
Okay, and also in reference to Vega, now, which seems kind of suspicious to me, pandering, that he mentioned that if he gets into office, even though he never really had a concern in 30 years, but now all of a sudden he has a concern because of the high level of crime and that he's been impacted by crime. When he gets into office, he wants to increase more blacks. Never said Hispanics, but he said blacks. That's what I got. So to me, it sounds like a lot of pandering. But here's the point that I'm making is that crime in Philadelphia, as in Chicago and other urban areas, people, particularly white people, man, have and blacks too, have a very large interest in preventing and decreasing crime. So the whole focus is to get criminals off the street. So they're not concerned about wrongful incarceration. They're not concerned about black people, man, being unjustifiably incarcerated. That's only a concern with some blacks. So what I would say is that white people, FOP, and other even white-looking Hispanics, they really don't give a damn about mistaken or early releases. They want criminals off the street. And what makes it hard for us is that these things do exist. We do have crime, black on black, in our urban areas, and that makes it increasingly difficult. So it's a hard dilemma in which we're dealing with. And so, do you want a prosecutor?
Yeah, I mean, I hear you. We have those internal community conflicts. I cringe like when we keep saying black on black crime because it's like it depends. We never say white on white crime, but we have like poor white places where white people, show up and bang up on white people. Asian people bang up on Asian people. I don't know why we like have to stand out. Like, can we? I don't know. I'm just saying. I'm sorry. I cringe every time I hear black on black crime.
Okay,
it's just wherever you are in a community, and if you're in close proximity to one another, and it happens to be a distressed place, 9 times out of 10, the people who are going to inflict some sort of crime on you are going to look just like you. Whether you're black, white, Asian, or Latino, we don't say brown on brown crime, but it's a lot of brown on brown crime. It's just, but we're the only ones who keep doing that to ourselves, like black on black. Like, well, it's just wherever you are in the world, if you're in close proximity to one another. I mean, there's some high crime in Mexico. They got high crime, narco wars. We don't be talking about Mexican on Mexican crime. We the only people on the planet where we get that designation is us. And we really need to rethink that. I'm sorry, Cliff. I may have went off.
Okay, I just want to
go ahead. Yeah, keep going.
What I'm saying is that you don't see black cops going into those white neighborhoods and shooting white people. So what I'm saying is that in this society, in America, the reason why white people and Republicans and conservatives justify these unjust killings and its misconduct because they're saying that blacks are killing each other, which they really don't give a damn about. And that's the reason why they're saying that they want more policing. They're pro-police. And that's what I'm saying is that this does happen. Now, Brother Solomon did have a round table. I gotta let you go, Cliff, because City Council just came on. Let's go now. Let's tune in to virtual City Hall.
Meeting remotely. We are using Microsoft Teams to make this remote meeting possible. Instruction for how the public may view the meeting and offer public comment are included in the stated meeting notice that was published in the Daily News, Enquirer, and Legal Intelligencer prior to the meeting, and can also be found on phlcouncil.com. I now note that the hour has come. The clerk will please call the roll to take attendance. Members that are in attendance will please indicate aye, present, or whatever you so may choose to ensure that your image is displayed on the screen. Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Good morning. I am present. Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues in Philadelphia.
Good morning, Councilwoman.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues in Philadelphia. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Dom.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues in the City of Philadelphia.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gauthier.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues in Philadelphia. Present.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues, and good morning to the city of Philly love.
Good morning.
Councilman Green.
Good
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Council staff. Good morning to the city of brotherly love and sisterly effectiveness.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Kim.
Good morning, Council President, and good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. Prayers go out to all the families who lost loved ones to gun violence.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Councilman Jones.
Good morning, Mr. President, colleagues. Eid Mubarak to those completing the Ramadan holy month.
Good morning.
Councilman O.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues. I am present.
Good morning.
Councilman O'Neill. Councilwoman Parker.
Good morning, Mr. President and colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Good morning, Council President and colleagues.
Good morning.
Councilman Squilla.
Good morning, Council President, colleagues, present.
Good morning.
Councilman Thomas.
Good morning, Council President. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning.
Council President Clark.
And good morning to all. We have established a quorum. Today, we do not have a pastor for our invocation, so I would just ask our colleagues to bow their head for a moment of silence. Thank you. Thank you so much. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 6, 2021, and the chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 6, 2021 be approved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, May 6, 2021 stand approved. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. And our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the members of council, there are no requests for leaves of absence today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And our next order of business is communications. Mr. Decker, please read the messages from the mayor and any other communications that you may have in your possession.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, I am pleased to advise you that on May 11, 2021, I signed all the bills which were passed by Council at its session on April 29, 2021, except Bill number 210207, which I am returning without my signature. And I am transmitting for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying the simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 3rd Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties, and a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 7th Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties, and a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to such city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 2nd Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties, and a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon, situated in the 8th Councilmanic District of the City of Philadelphia, and further authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to transfer to the Philadelphia Land Bank fee simple title to such properties, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to be excused from the rest of today's council in order to participate in the Eid celebrations and thank this body for allowing tens of thousands of students in public school to be excused legally to celebrate as well. I want to be reported aye on all bills and resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. Thank you so much. Leave shall be granted, let the record reflect for the Councilman Jones, and he's been reported as voting aye on all bills and resolutions and amendments. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Our next order of business is the introduction of bills and resolutions. By way of a reminder, we are asking that all resolutions, including privileged resolutions, be placed on the final passes calendar for the next session of council, unless they are being referred to committee. In our current remote environment, this procedure will provide an appropriate opportunity for public comment. Thank you very much for your anticipated cooperation. Mr. Decker, please read the titles of the legislation that is being offered today by the members.
Councilwoman Parker offers two bills on behalf of Council President. Councilwoman Parker offers an ordinance authorizing the Water Commissioner on behalf of the city to enter into an agreement between the City of Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority for the PRA to act as the city's agent to include and incorporate Philadelphia Water Department identified green stormwater infrastructure projects, the stormwater infrastructure, in certain construction and improvement projects in and around the city on properties owned by the city projects, including those projects arising out of the city's Rebuilding Community Infrastructure or REBUILD program, and on properties owned by the PRA, the city projects and PRA projects together, the construction projects, from the design phase to construction completion in an efficient manner.
Further to me.
On her own behalf, Councilwoman Parker offers an ordinance amending Chapter 19-1200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Parking Tax by revising certain tax rates. Mr. President, Councilwoman Parker would like to be recognized on this bill.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, today I am introducing a bill that is co-sponsored by Council Members Jones, Squilla, Heenan, O'Neill, Green, and O, that will lower the parking tax rate to 17% with the start of the new fiscal year, July 1st, 2021. This bill, Mr. President, is a follow-up to Bill number 200288, signed by the mayor last June as part of the 2020 budget negotiations. Bill number 200288 raised the parking tax rate from 22.5% to 25% for 1 year, from July 1st, 2020 to July 1st, 2021. Bill number 200288 also stated, Mr. President, that it is council's intent to establish a Good Parking Jobs for Philadelphia Review Committee as an agency of council comprised of mayoral appointees, two of whom shall be members of council. In the event that such committee determines the satisfaction of council that the conditions in the parking industry favorably support the development of stable jobs while providing a path to advancement for workers in the industry, it is council's intent, beginning with respect to fiscal year 2022, to reduce the rate of the parking tax with the goal of reducing the rate to 17%. Subsequently, Mr. President, Bill number 200387 created the Good Parking Jobs for Philadelphia Review Committee, and the mayor appointed the members in early 2021. The members of the committee, we've been meeting informally and communicating throughout 2020 and 2021, and we will be having a meeting on June 7th, 2021. As Philadelphia continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, I view this bill that we are introducing today as a tool in the toolbox that will incentivize visitors to come back to Philadelphia and help ensure our economic competitiveness in the region. As I have repeatedly stated during the budget hearings this spring, when we are considering lowering tax rates, we need to think very carefully through why, we are lowering these tax rates and who may be the beneficiaries of lower tax rates. It is my hope that by lowering the parking tax rate, we can further incentivize those who want to return to our great city, including people who want to enjoy our arts and culture, restaurants, hotels, convention center, and overall hospitality and tourism industries that are in essence second to none. Most importantly, though, the goal of lowering this tax rate is for some of the benefits, Mr. President, to flow directly to the parking workers, either by bringing back laid off parking workers or by improving the pay and the benefits of parking workers. It is with this in mind that I am happy to have partnered not just with the parking industry on this legislation, but also with SEIU 32BJ, who represents many of the parking lot and garage workers. Philadelphia has long had a higher parking tax rate than our peer cities, including New York City, where the rate is just over 18% for non-residents and just over 10% for residents. The plan for our city was to begin lowering the parking tax rate in 2020 and beyond, but COVID, the pandemic precluded us from doing that. And after a year of raising the parking tax rate to 25%, now is the time to rethink whether our high tax rate is a barrier to incentivizing people to return to our great city, and to rethink whether such a high tax rate is actually hurting the parking workers we want to help. I believe that it is possible to be a pro-industry, pro-business, and pro-worker. And as the bill states, its passage will await the outcome of a determination by the Good Parking Jobs for Philadelphia Review Committee that the conditions in the parking industry favorably support the development of stable jobs and provide a path to advancement for workers in the industry. So let me be clear. I will not move for the adoption of this bill unless and until the Good Parking Jobs for Philadelphia Review Committee determines that a lowering of the parking tax rate will, in fact, benefit workers. So I look forward to this bill being considered along with our other budget bills, and ultimately I look forward to seeing where fiscal year 2022, where our budget ends up, and how it ultimately ends up benefiting the residents and workers of Philadelphia. I also want to note for the record that we always want to make sure that any public policy we are introducing is data-driven and research-based. I was very pleased to get a memo from a third-party independent verifying entity, ESI, eConsult Solutions. And I want to note that it states this: the city administration and city council are actively looking for ways, large and small, to promote the favorable positioning of the city. There's no one policy or program that will solve the problem, but many smart moves can significantly position the city for a greater recovery. And one relatively small but economically significant step the city could take to achieve this overall economic recovery objective is to further reduce the parking tax rate. So I look forward to having a very robust discussion about this issue with my colleagues here in council. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Thank you for that clarification. That bill will be referred to committee.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson offers one bill entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Businesses, Trades, and Professions by adding a new chapter related to hiring entities providing covered individuals with workforce and career pathways information sheet.
For the committee.
Councilman Heenan offers one bill entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to acquire, fee simple title, or a lesser interest in real estate by purchase, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation, or otherwise, and parcels of land connecting to Coney Street to the Frankfurt Arsenal boat launch for public recreational purposes.
For the committee.
Councilman Johnson offers three bills and two resolutions. Entitled an ordinance establishing a no truck parking regulation on both sides of Chester Avenue from 66th Street to 67th Street, and an ordinance establishing parking regulations on both sides of Webster Street between 20th Street and 21st Street, And an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising a table within Section 14701 dimensional standards.
Those three bills shall be referred to committee.
And a resolution also naming the 1600 block of South Street, Ronald K. Washington Way.
That will be on next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots and pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Sanchez offers on behalf of Councilman Jones 2 bills entitled an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning by revising and consolidating provisions of Chapter 14500 entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by amending Section 14524 entitled FDO 4th District Overlay District and Section 14527 entitled WYN Winfield District Overlay District. And an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Zoning and Planning to revise certain provisions of Chapter 14600 entitled Use Regulations by amending use standards for historically designated properties and making related changes.
Thank you. For the committee, and let the record reflect Councilman Heaton is here.
Council President, thank you. I had to step away for council business, and I would like to be recorded as present in today's session, so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. The record shall reflect Councilman Heaton is present.
Councilwoman Gautier offers 2 resolutions entitled a resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority deeds conveying fee simple title to certain city-owned lots or pieces of ground with the buildings and improvements thereon situated in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 5559 Locust Street located in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Also next week's calendar.
Councilman Thomas offers a resolution entitled a resolution honoring and congratulating Destiny Jackson on her acceptance into 50-plus colleges while experiencing homelessness, foster care, and participating in several extracurricular leadership positions.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to take a moment to offer congratulations to our champion of the week, Ms. Destiny. I was actually introduced to Destiny about 2.5 years ago, actually. And she signed up to volunteer on my campaign when I was running for city council. And I can tell you that it was one of the best experiences that I've had interacting with a young person, especially a young person who didn't come from my traditional means of mentoring, whether it be in the classrooms that I've run or programs that I've been a part of or coaching experiences. It was a different type of connection that I made with Destiny. And I can tell you just from the time I met her to watching her interact with people all across the city to actually hiring her to work on my campaign, her personality is one that's just contagious with joy. And, you know, it's an honor to know her. If you haven't seen her on TV or seen her in the paper, she's getting a lot of love across the city right now in the midst of all the negative stories that we see and encounter and have to deal with on a consistent basis. She is a bright and shining star coming out of our city. So I look forward to recognizing Destiny, not just this week, but hopefully we can have her join us in council next week to be able to talk about what she's doing, where she's going, and the bright star that we're hoping she will be representing the city of Philadelphia. Thank you, Council President. Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Great story.
Councilman O'Neill offers 1 bill entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 10700 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Refuse and Littering by amending Section 10719 entitled Penalties by revising the penalty to be assessed for violations of this chapter.
And that bill will be referred to committee. And for the record, Councilman Thomas's resolution will be on next week's calendar.
Councilman Squilla offers 1 bill and 2 resolutions entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into an amendment to a lease agreement with Southeastern Pennsylvania Transportation Authority for use by the city of a portion of the premises located at 1234 Market Street.
For the committee.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Education to hold hearings on the benefits of the Pennsylvania System School Assessment Testing and the administration of these tests by the Philadelphia School District.
This week's calendar.
And a resolution honoring and congratulating Frank Stephan Spira on the occasion of his retirement from the Pennsylvania State Police Bureau of Liquor Control Enforcement.
And that would be next week's calendar.
Councilwoman Bass offers one resolution entitled a resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings regarding mobile crisis units.
This week's calendar.
Councilman O offers one resolution calling on the City of Philadelphia to include the flag of the Republic of Azerbaijan in the display of international flags along the Benjamin Franklin Parkway.
Next week's calendar.
There are no other bills or resolutions being offered by the members today, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a report from the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs. Councilwoman Bass, you here?
Good morning, Mr. President. I do apologize. I'm having some technical difficulties.
No problem.
One moment.
This,
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs reports out one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, read your report.
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, the Committee on Parks, Recreation, and Cultural Affairs, to which was referred Bill Number 210360, entitled An Ordinance Officially Naming and Designating the Dog Park located on the north side of Winter Street between 21st Street and 22nd Street in the City of Philadelphia as the Rob Stewart Memorial Dog Park. Respectfully reports it is considered the same and returns the attached bill to Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bill Number 210360.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of Bills Number 210360. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Ayes have it. And this bill will be placed on our first reading calendar today. That concludes our reports on committee, and our next order of business is the consideration of the calendar. I note that the bill just read, reported from committee with suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had a first reading, and that bill will be on our second reading and final passage calendar at our next session of council. As there are no additional bills on the first reading calendar, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker for the purpose of calling up bills and resolutions on the final passage calendar today.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. They are numbers 210426, 210427, 210428, 210429, 210430, 210432, 210433, 210434, 210203, 210286, 210287, 210288, 210289, 210290, 210291, and 210292. All other resolutions and bills are being held, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Before we proceed, we'll have our public comment session. So we will take a very brief, a minute, to allow our technology professionals some time to connect the speaker we have for today.
This is Raymond.
Hi, good morning.
Okay, we're waiting on Philadelphia City Council. They are setting up the technology for the public comment period. That's coming up next. So we're just waiting on that. That will take about several moments. If we have a moment or two in there. Phone lines are open when we have those breaks. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. You also heard earlier on some slightly passionate remarks from Council Majority Leader Sherelle Parker, Councilwoman, about the parking industry and about parking jobs. And she's trying to sort of help that industry recover by lowering the parking tax rate. And so obviously parking enforcement jobs have taken a beating during pandemic. Just a policy note here, though, and just sort of thinking about what Taib Smith was saying yesterday during our conversation, our Philly Tech Week conversation, and about how, I think it was either Taib Smith, it was Sylvester Mobley. Sylvester Mobley had noted that nearly half of all black workers in the city of Philadelphia work in jobs, low-wage jobs, that are fast becoming obsolete as a result of automation. Parking enforcement jobs actually are on that list of top 25 jobs in the nation that are fast becoming obsolete due to automation AI. So in fact, by 2028, the Federal Bureau of Labor Statistics projects that there will be only 5,400 Americans nationally that will be working in parking enforcement. All right, let's go to Philadelphia City Council public comment.
You must call 215-686-3406 by 3 p.m. the day before the session to sign up for public comment. When you call, we will take your name, phone number, the number of the legislative item you are commenting on, and whether you are in support of or against the legislation, and add your name to the list. We will telephone each person on the list during the council session and invite them to our remote meeting. Under ideal circumstances, which we had today, we will have 3 minutes to speak. In order to be fair to all those wishing to speak, though, I intend to hold faithfully to the established time limit. So once invited to the meeting and asked to begin your testimony, a timer will be started. We will monitor your remaining time throughout your testimony, and when there are 30 seconds remaining to your time, you will be reminded of this. Once your allotted time has passed, you will be asked to conclude your remarks, and shortly thereafter, you will be muted and disconnected from the remote meeting. I also reserve the right to limit the number of speakers where repetitious comments are being made on the same subject matter, and to limit the scope of the testimony to only allow certain items on the agenda during the public health emergency, which could affect callbacks for public comment at any meeting. So please be aware that this public meeting is being recorded, and because the meeting is public, participants and viewers have no reasonable expectation of privacy. So by continuing to be in this meeting, you are consenting to being recorded. I will now ask Mr. Chief Clerk to please read the name of our first speaker.
Mr. President, the only speaker we have today is Dr. Raymond Cataneo, commenting on 210427.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Just state your name for the record, and please proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Raymond Cataneo. Council, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak in support of Resolution 210427. I'm Raymond Cataneo. My pronouns are he and him. I am the lead pediatric faculty of the Einstein Healthcare Network's PRIDE program, a comprehensive and inclusive program designed specifically for the sexual and gender diverse patients in our community. I'm here representing the 20 healthcare professionals of that program. HB 972, as all anti-trans bills barring trans individuals the right to participate in sports aligned with their gender identity, is based on myths, lies, and ignorance. Here are the facts. First, trans girls are girls. There is no outward sign, medical test, or genetic marker that can define a person's gender. Therefore, girls should be allowed to play sports as girls. Second, trans girls are not dominating women's sports. Proponents of this bill cannot cite one case of a trans girl dominating a sport because it doesn't happen. Third, a person's genitalia and hormonal makeup does not necessarily give them an advantage in competition. Trans girls do not have any specific or immutable advantage. Fourth, banning trans athletes perpetuates myths and misunderstandings about trans people. Banning trans athletes has the very real potential of encouraging gender policing and racial discrimination. In all likelihood, we will see worse physical and mental health in athletes, especially trans athletes. And if that happens, there will be a direct and clear link to the legislators who support this bill. Fifth, sports are about inclusivity, goal setting, teamwork, and overall well-being. People who participate in sports as youth and adolescents have been found to have higher grades, higher scores on state assessment tests, and higher rates of high school graduation. In places that have trans-inclusive policies, participation in sports has increased for all genders. Allowing trans girls to play girls' sports helps everyone. 6, multiple medical, counseling, educational, and legal organizations have spoken out against these bills, citing the harm they cause. Lastly, your words and actions matter. As you may know, a co-sponsor of HB 972 represents a portion of Philadelphia. The passage of this resolution will send a firm message to her, the people of her district, and all citizens of Philadelphia that this bill does not represent the ideals of this historic city. By defending the most vulnerable among us, you are speaking volumes. Trans people encourage, welcome, and undoubtedly need the support of leaders like you. As the American Academy of Pediatrics has stated, in sports, politics has no place here. Transgender children, like all children, just want to belong. Einstein Healthcare Network's Pride Program healthcare professionals are defending the right of our trans community to belong. We thank you for defending the right to belong. Please pass this resolution. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much for your testimony. We appreciate it. And that concludes today's public comment period. We will now consider the bills and resolutions on the second reading and final passage calendar. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-426.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to execute and deliver to the Philadelphia Land Bank deeds conveying title to certain properties located in the 5th Councilmanic District.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. And that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-427.
A resolution urging the Pennsylvania State Legislature and Governor Tom Wolf to reject House Bill 972, intended to prohibit transgender athletes from participating in high school and/or collegiate sports according to their gender identity.
Chair recognizes. I'm sorry. Chair recognizes. Is that Councilman O'Neill?
I'm sorry. I'll wait till after the sponsor moves the resolution. I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Chair recognizes Councilman O'Neill.
Yes, Mr. President. I know sometimes it's confused on no votes on the virtual, and I'll be voting no on this resolution.
Thank you. Thank you. Let the record reflect. Councilman O'Neill will be voting no. This resolution has been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Aye. Record reflects that Councilman O'Neill is voting nay. This resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210-428.
A resolution recognizing and honoring West Philadelphia and Winfield native Shaka Tony on being drafted to the Washington football team in the 2021 NFL Draft.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of Councilmember Jones, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, 210-429.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 1329 South 15th Street located in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210430.
A resolution honoring Equal Justice Initiative founder Brian Stevenson for his lifelong pursuit of justice, vindicating the rights of the accused, and fighting mass incarceration.
Chair again recognizes Councilman Johnson for a motion.
Thank you, Council President, and I thank my colleagues for support of this resolution. Brian Stevenson is a remarkable individual who played in the movie Just Mercy by Michael B. Jordan, and he has a museum that focuses on addressing the issue of mass incarceration, but also, most importantly, the historical aspects of lynching that have taken place all throughout South. So he has done some great work in this area, and I want to acknowledge him because his family comes from the Grays Ferry community of South Philadelphia, which is in the 2nd Councilmanic District. And I also recommend an outstanding documentary that
Hey, Eddie.
like his work on HBO.
Council, somebody needs to mute themselves.
Good, can't complain. Yeah.
Councilman Squilla, can you mute your phone, please?
I'm sorry, Councilman. Go ahead.
Thank you, Council President. Council President and colleagues, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210432.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 19, 21, 23, 25, 27 East Somerset Street, 3022, 3024, 3026, and 3028 North American Street, 2907 Grandsback Street, 413 West Norris Street, 419 West Norris Street, and 2152 North Randolph Street, located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Colonna Sanchez for a motion.
Thank you, Council President. I move for its adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of the motion indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210433.
Resolution honoring the nonprofit organization The Block Gives Back for their successful youth internship program for 12 to 18-year-olds aimed at growing nonprofit operation skills and providing support for community events.
Chair recognizes Councilman Thomas for a motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and probably second that the resolution be adopted. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of resolution number 210434.
A resolution calling on the City of Philadelphia to implement minimum force training for all law enforcement officers.
Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Council President,
Yeah.
I had requested a comment on this resolution.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, now it's popping up. My screen is not giving me the appropriate indication as to who raised their hand. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gill.
Thank you very much, Council President. I had some concerns about this resolution that I wanted to raise. First, I want to make clear that the resolution to implement minimum force training for all law enforcement officers, minimum force is already a policy of the Philadelphia Police Department. Directive 10.3 clearly indicates that there is minimum force already in play. I assume and will certainly check with the police commissioner that if there are existing policies and directives, that officers are obviously trained on such policies and directives. I always believe, of course, that training should be improved and all of that. But I do want to make clear that minimum force policy is already in existence, and I would be surprised if officers are not trained on their policies. I think that if there was discussion in this resolution about the types of alternatives that champions like Charles Ramsey have openly talked about, they have talked about further de-escalation strategies, not just minimum force training, but actually research-backed training and tools that help agencies build trust, diffuse situations, reduce the use of force. They've specifically talked about things like social interaction trainings and actually teaching officers how to deal with people. And in fact, some of the things that were noted were that some of the technical training that is being proposed, for example, in this resolution, in some instances are acknowledged, but Ramsey and many others say that what officers need more than anything else are strong interpersonal skills, and very few get little formal instruction on that, and that is not mentioned in this resolution. But the main reason why I have serious concerns about this resolution is that there are two clauses in it that really take on the work of this council and this council's body to hold police officers, the police department, and our city to a higher standard. I will specify. Two of the clauses say, as a result of George Floyd's death, there is a national push to reform laws and protocols pertaining to police conduct and liability. And whereas some of these efforts are questionable and may result in unintended consequences that increase crime and injury, I have an issue with that language. I want to emphasize that members of this body, including yourself, Council President Clark, and Councilmember Jones, have pursued a police oversight commission, recognizing that this is critically important to the work of responsibility and of ensuring the broader public safety. That effort is supported by a majority of our city council body. Councilmember Johnson's ban on chokeholds, supported unanimously by our body, came out of that work. Councilmember Thomas's bill to review vehicular police stops and ensure that there is not racial profiling or a diversion of different aspects of profiling and race-based policing of our communities is an important aspect of the work that we are doing. And of course, our work to ban tear gas, less than lethal munitions, also overwhelmingly supported by our council body and in line with appropriate police practices, is the continued work. I am not comfortable supporting a resolution that so broadly disparages this work and leaves open-ended this idea that these efforts are questionable and may result in unintended consequences that increase crime and injury. I will be voting no on this bill, on this resolution as a result, unless there were some significant changes or expansions to it. But I really feel that this body takes police responsibility seriously. We support minimum force, which is already a policy of the police department. And what we need to be emphasizing right now is not just minimum force training, but an expansion of de-escalation, a supporting of the mobile crisis units, for example, a supporting of alternatives to policing, and a supporting of ensuring that our police officers get actually the training that has been called for and needed, and not just what is already on the books. Thank you, Council President.
Council President, I have a point of information.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia.
My question is to the sponsor in reference to the nature of those two whereas clauses. I believe reading is fundamental, and when I first read the resolution, it sounded on its face something that many people would be supportive of until I did read those two clauses, which also caused me pause. So with that, I'd like the sponsor to provide some additional context in reference to those two whereas clauses as part of this resolution regarding minimum force trading.
Councilman O.
Thank you very much. I appreciate both questions and both issues raised by Councilmember Helen Gim and Councilmember Derek Green. So let me say that there are policies and then there are practices. So a policy, for example, may be to perform well, or to not do certain things, or to do certain things on the football field. You could call that a policy. But it's not a practice unless you practice it. And there are things that you can do well without stress or pressure, and then there are things that you do automatically when you are under life-threatening stress and pressure. What happens is people have to be trained to do or not do certain things. It comes with a lot of training. Officers go through the police academy, and for the most part, not completely, but for the most part, except for the yearly examination and qualification that they go through, which is not extensive, they don't receive additional training. And I think the issue about George Floyd, which is a very serious one, which cities like ours and police departments actually, even across the world, are responding to. Legislators are responding to. And I think the issue is there's many ways to respond to it, but one of the things that we can do, one of them, is to focus on what happens when police officers are responding to life-threatening confrontations, and the training that they have is on using lethal force. And they do not have continuous training in how to not use force, when not to use force, and how to use minimal force and when to use minimal force. Lethal force is always at their disposal, in that they have a firearm, for example, that they could rely on, and that's what they've been trained. So while there may be some written rules and guidance and policies on minimum force, it has to be a practice. The example of someone believing they pulled out a taser and it's actually a firearm is an example that when people are under stress, they do things believing they're doing one thing. It takes practice. It takes practice under pressure in order to be able to not make those errors. It also will guide the department on perhaps where the taser is located, what type of taser should be used, how it may not be confused with a firearm. And I would like to say that there are differences, and so let me explain some of the differences. Police generally are trained, when they are trained, it's actually not an extensive amount, in defensive tactics. Defensive tactics are, for example, how to combat someone using a baton, or when you don't have your firearm, it's not working, or those type of things. Minimum force is not simply using the least amount of force by applying, for example, jiu-jitsu or judo holds or wrestling holds or things like that. It is a mentality to kind of assess the situation and make a very quick and proper decision on whether any force should be used, whether it is better to let the suspect flee the situation, or whether when dealing with an elderly person or a teenager, certain types of restraints are proper or improper. Without proper training, a person may try to apply a restraint, and it's not a chokehold, that may result in a broken shoulder, a broken arm, a broken elbow. Chokeholds are not the only type of holds. There are other holds that can result in some pretty serious damage as well. I think it is important that those who are charged with the responsibility of restraining someone who may be harming another person or even trying to kill that person understand the most efficient and effective ways. Regarding, what are some of the questionable things? For example, in New York, the city put out a rule that when arresting a suspect, police officers cannot put any weight on the suspect when they're in a prone position. That's going to be very difficult. Putting weight on a suspect when you're trying to subdue them enough to put handcuffs on them or to control them. If you're not going to put weight, there are ways not to put weight on people. There are ways to put weight on people. Just a blanket rule, don't put weight. You're going to need a lot of officers on that one person trying not to put weight on them. Putting weight on them is a way to restrain them without harming them, without letting them get hurt, without letting them hurt themselves. And so I think that is going to have an unintended consequence. Either you're going to have like 5 officers on someone, or if they're trying to subdue that person and they don't put weight on them, that person might get more injured, or the police officers might get more injured. And so I think education is the best way to deal with those topics. Chokeholds, for example, there are a lot of different types of chokeholds, many chokeholds. There's all sorts of ways to apply chokeholds. The bill that we have is that once a person is controlled, chokeholds are not to be applied. However, when an officer is trying to protect their weapon from a person who is trying to grab their weapon or to kill them or to harm others, there is no rule that we have that chokeholds are not applicable. You can apply chokeholds when you are fighting for your life or trying to prevent damage from occurring. However, it is when the person is subdued. Now, what kind of chokeholds? There are a variety of chokeholds, and they have different effects. There are what we call blood chokes, and there are air chokes, which can crush your esophagus. There are chokes that will put you to sleep. There are chokes you could apply with one arm in, one arm out. There are chokes that could result in a broken neck. There are all sorts of ways to choke people. You could do it with a collar. You could do it with clothes. You could do it with your elbow. You could do it in many ways. It is a good idea to train officers to understand, the unintended consequences of restraining people, and I think that is a good idea. I will say, in my opinion, and this is something that can be discussed, qualified immunity has come up. And when qualified immunity is removed, there's a good chance that officers will not want to carry out their duties. That is an unintended consequence that can come up for discussion. So those are things that I am talking about. I will say that Delaware County, Bucks County have already began the exploration of mandatory minimum force training, which again, it is not simply telling a person not to use greater force than necessary. It is teaching and training them how to assess the situation and how to present, in their minds, the idea of what is the violation, what type of conduct is appropriate. For example, we all saw the video of the Army lieutenant who pulled into a well-lit gas station over what is otherwise a traffic stop and having two police officers pull out their firearms and point it at him. It would appear to me completely unnecessary. I do understand for people who are concerned that, yes, traffic stops are very dangerous, and you also have, unfortunately, law enforcement that have been murdered as a result of a traffic stop. I'm not saying to be uncautious. I am saying that a traffic stop where a person pulls into a well-lit gas station, has a Army uniform on, yes, it may be fake, but, the point is the conversation, the approach, all those things are part of minimum force training. To not simply pull out firearms, point them at a person, and begin that type of dialogue with demands and commands. So that is minimum force training. And I think it is something that is important to be pursued in our police department. Thank you.
Council President.
I'm sorry, Councilman Green. Councilman Green.
Yeah, Councilmember provided a lot of language in his response to my point of information, and I'll be a little bit more specific. And just going specifically to the language of your resolution, both you and I are lawyers, so words are very meaningful. And you state specifically a national push to reform laws and protocols pertaining to police conduct and liability, whereas some of these efforts are questionable. You made a statement regarding chokeholds, and I guess you're saying that the efforts on a national level to reform chokeholds are questionable and may result in unintended consequences that may increase crime and injury. And you gave a lot of perspective on different types of chokeholds. However, the very definition of a chokehold is a tight grip around a person's neck used to restrain them by restricting their breathing. So I want to make sure I understand that you're saying that the reform of a chokehold is a questionable effort that may result in unintended consequences that may increase crime or injury.
No, that's not what I meant, if that's what you heard. What I said is, and what I meant is, for example, in New York, not making it illegal and improper for a police officer to put body weight on a suspect that they are trying to restrain is questionable and will likely lead to unintended consequences. When it comes to the proper and important idea of restraining or preventing chokeholds, there are many types of chokeholds, many ways to do it. And so none of the legislation that I'm aware of, there may be that just blanketly, even if someone is coming at you and trying to grab your weapon, you can't apply a chokehold. I've never seen that. All the legislation is about after you restrain someone or you have someone in control, you cannot apply a chokehold. But if someone is trying to stab you or shoot you or grab your weapon, when you are a police officer dealing with a bigger, stronger person and trying to grab your gun, there's been no law that I'm aware of that prevents an officer from doing everything they can to prevent themselves from being killed, including chokeholds.
Mr.
However,
President,
the point that I have is that
Hold on. All right, this is going on.
Mr. President,
Councilman, hold on a second.
I call for the orders of the day.
All right. Well, I had, Councilwoman, there were a couple of members that had teed up for point of a clarification. So I don't want to diminish their interest in this. And I know if you call for the vote, and I understand we're supposed to call for the vote. So if those members that have expressed an interest in teeing up
I will close my point of information.
Mr. President,
I would like a point of clarification, Council President. Mine will be.
Councilwoman Sanchez.
Yeah, I need to be brief, but I think it's important to put something on the record because there's extensive work in this area, as Councilmember Ginn mentioned. And I really I wanted to ask the resolution sponsor, this should be a call for a hearing and a public discussion for all the reasons the debate is happening as we're looking at 21st century policing. My request yesterday to the police commissioner was specifically around an update to the Justice Department report that really laid out the changing of policy around use of deadly force and all of these restraint measures. And this is one of the reasons I requested that update from her, because I think it's a valuable conversation to have. I just don't think that making a statement versus calling for a public hearing is what we should be doing given the nuances and the interpretation. So that's my point of clarification. There's a lot of stuff on the books. The police commissioner is going to submit that to us before the end of this budget cycle as an update to policy and practice, and that's my point for the record. Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Council President, I also had a point of clarification.
Yeah, let me kind of do it one at a time, if you don't mind, Council President, because I can't answer like 5 different points after one made them.
Little order, please. All right. Councilwoman Fiona Sanchez has been teed up. Councilman Dim has been teed up. Councilman No, and I'm a very patient person. Like some people say, it's like
Mr. President, I think I'm patient too. Listen, let me, if you don't mind, Council President, if I could just answer Councilwoman Sanchez rather than trying to remember her question and go through like a bunch of council members. I don't know if I'll remember at the end of that. So in answer to Councilmember Sanchez's point, I think a hearing is a wonderful idea. However, as you stated, minimum force training is not up to City Council. That is something that is within the purview of the administration and the police commissioner. However, what is in our purview is funding. What is in our purview is certain aspects of that, because minimum force training does not just happen out of thin air. There has to be made by the police commissioner and the administration what they're going to do. They have to create a program. City Council will not be involved in creating a program. We can have a hearing on it. They have to create a program. Then they have to decide how they're going to implement that program. For example, if officers who are, for example, patrol officers or officers who are engaged in making arrests are going to receive, mandatory minimum force training, how do they do it? Where do they do it? Do they do it at the police academy? Do they do it at a local approved provider, such as a certified martial arts school? What program are they getting? If they are receiving that training, who is paying for it? What if they get hurt while they are getting this training? Is that covered by workers' compensation? Are they expected to do this on their own time? What is the incentive? If they're doing it on job time, does that take them off of their shift? Those issues have to be first worked out by the administration, and they have to decide if they're going to do that, and then they would present to us, City Council, a budget request if that is something that they're going to try to pursue. So that is why I did it in terms of a resolution, because that is going to be, something that is completely within the purview of the administration. Thank you.
Mr. President, I just want to know for the record that I'm having technical difficulties and my hand up function is not working. But I did, Mr. President, in lieu of all of the conversation and dialogue surrounding resolution number 210434, if in order at this time, Mr. President, wanted to make a motion that 210434 be tabled.
And Council President, could I just have a point of clarification?
Council, excuse me, Council.
Hold on, guys. It's moved and seconded. Councilwoman Kim, you had some clarification.
I have had a chance to communicate with Commissioner Outlaw, and I feel very strongly about this for the council sponsor. It is inaccurate to say that the police officers of the PPD are only trained in lethal force. She made very clear to me that there is a minimum force directive already in play, and that officers are trained accordingly. The mythology that somehow our problems with policing are based on the fact that officers are only trained in lethal force, do not have minimum force training, and obfuscates the fact that the bigger issue is in play, which is how are we de-escalating within our communities. That is the problem fundamentally with the resolution, that it is inaccurate by saying that officers, police officers, are not trained in minimum force training, and that somehow this is a magic bullet, while maybe intentionally, I'm not clear, disparaging significant efforts that this council body has undertaken to take a look at other forms of interaction that are critically important if we are going to both raise up public confidence and trust in policing and to improve public safety in the city of Philadelphia. The commissioner herself has clarified that the PPD is not solely trained in lethal force. So comments to that effect are inaccurate, and they are not, I feel like they are irresponsible in the sense that they deflect away from why this council body has been so engaged and is so important in discussing alternatives and expansion. And in the wake of George Floyd, we are not doing things that create unintentional consequences. We are being very purposeful and research-based and evidence-based about what this city needs to pursue in the wake of what has happened, not just to George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, but to people here in our own city. Thank you very much, Council President. I will be voting now.
Well, if I could respond to that, Council President.
Mr. President,
Hold on. All right, Councilman, I'm going to ask you, do you want to hold the resolution, because there was a call to the question? So either you can hold it or I have to respond to the call to the question.
You know, I don't have a problem holding the bill. However, I think there's some misinformation that I will have to respond to.
Well, I mean, it's a call to the question, Councilman. I'm giving you an opportunity to hold it, and then you can have further conversation with the colleagues.
Well, let's run the bill. People can vote against it. They want to vote against minimum force training resolution to the city. That's fine with me.
Okay. It was a call to the question by Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Decker.
There was a seconded motion on the floor to table by Councilwoman Parker. That motion is considered without debate.
Okay,
Does
well,
Councilwoman Parker withdraw that motion?
Call to the question was first, I believe.
Correct.
And we kind of...
Well, there was a call for the question.
The call for order or the call for the previous question? The call for previous question will require 4 seconds.
All right, there's a motion to table on the floor. Our parliamentarian has spoken. Call the table. It's been moved and probably second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
No. Councilman O'Neill.
Ayes have it, and the resolution is tabled. Thank you all very much. Democracy in action. I love it. Mr. Decker, please read the title 210-203.
Well, Council President, I feel I should respond and have the opportunity to respond to inaccurate statements made by Councilmember Kim.
Councilman can you do that at the time of the speeches on behalf of the minority and majority? You will have that.
I can. I will wait till then.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mr. Decker, 210-203.
An ordinance authorizing and approving the execution and delivery of one or more service agreements between the City of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority and or one or more other city-related authorities relating to the financing of a neighborhood preservation initiative, which includes housing, commercial corridors, and neighborhood infrastructure programs, approving the issuance by each such authority of bonds, notes, or other evidences of indebtedness, including reimbursement obligations related to lines or letters of credit in one or more series to finance or refinance such initiative, and authorizing and approving the obligation of the City of Philadelphia to pay in full when due the service fee and other amounts payable under each service agreement.
Thank you. This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question is now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan. Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of all members having voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210-286.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away zone regulations on Haldeman Avenue, both sides from Clark Street to Red Lion Road.
This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210-287.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away zone regulations on Tomlinson Road, both sides from Bustleton Avenue to Lindsay Street.
This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17, the nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210-288.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away zone regulations on Brookmont Road, both sides from Ferndale Street to Medway Road.
This bill has been read on 2 different days. The question now is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. The majority of all members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of Bill number 210-289.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away zone regulations on Bridle Road, both sides, from Brookmont Road to Bartlett Street.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present voted in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 210-290.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away zone regulations on Chesworth Road, both sides, from Varee Road to Ferndale Street.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 210-291.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away zone regulations on Ferndale Street, both sides, from Jean Street to Red Line Road.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 17 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 210-292.
An ordinance establishing no truck parking and tow-away zone regulations on Graymont Street, both sides, from Jean Street to Ferndale Street.
This bill having been read on 2 different days, the question now, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Brooks.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gautier.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gilmore Richardson.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones is voting aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilman O'Neill.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Thomas.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 16, nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes.
Excuse me, Council President.
You got it?
Did you get, yeah, excuse me. Did you get me recorded on that one?
Yeah, Councilman Jones, you just want to be recorded as voting aye on
Yeah, this is Johnson.
292. Okay. Let the record reflect that Councilman Johnson is voting aye on bill number 210-292. That vote is 17.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mr. Decker, do you have any additional resolutions?
Yes, Mr. President. A resolution authorizing the Committee on Education to hold hearings on the benefits of the Pennsylvania System School Assessment, PSSA testing, and the administration of these tests by the Philadelphia School District, introduced by Councilman Squilla.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Public Health and Human Services to hold hearings regarding mobile crisis units, introduced by Councilwoman Bass.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. That concludes our calendar for today. Prior to recognizing members regarding speeches, I will note for the record at that time we will use the chat feature available on Microsoft Teams to allow members to signify that they wish to be recognized. In order to comply with the Sunshine Act, the chat feature must only be used for this particular purpose. With that said, their speeches on behalf of the minority. Chair recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. I am going to respond just simply about what I believe is just misinformation. And information can always be learned, so it's not a huge problem. I spoke with the commissioner in length about this topic, as I did Commissioner Ross and Commissioner Ramsey. I am well versed in this topic. I have spoken to other officers in the police department, and I've spoken to different supervisors. I, from time to time, find police officers in my jiu-jitsu academy, and I train with them. They're paying for that out of their pocket. This is a national issue. It has been around for a long time. Other countries train their officers better than we do, primarily because in other countries there are no firearms. Criminals can get firearms, but oftentimes they have machetes or they have knives, and officers find themselves dealing with those situations. There's a difference between writing a rule and training someone to do it. If we could just write rules and create a championship basketball team, that would be great. But we can't. No matter how much written instruction or verbal instruction you give to someone, no matter how talented they are, they need a basketball, they need a court, they need to train, they need to practice, and they have to overcome their natural reactions through training and discipline. It is not mythology. And I think that's where we have a problem. For those who want to defund the police beyond what people want, and we're talking about the haves and the have-nots, those who have public safety, those who have private security, those who live in vertical gated communities or gated communities, and those who don't. Not everybody in our city wants or needs a police, but there are a lot of people, far more people in our city that live with crime constantly. Gun violence is not happening in every neighborhood of our city. And in those communities, they want policing. They just can't get it. They want it, and they want it improved. They want reforms. But then we're running up against people who say there are no reforms that could happen that will improve the police. And that's where we get into this problem. Trying to improve the police to regain a level of confidence, because people who want the police and require the police yet have concerns about policing. And to the extent that we're simply dealing with a portion of that, which is better training to assure the people of this city that they will have police, that we are concerned about the issues that are rising, and that we will train them better, that we will allocate the funds and the tools and the resources so that people know that our police officers are receiving the best training, equipment, and capabilities for their needs. It is not mythology. People who are not trained properly or trained adequately or trained extensively do not perform well. There is a level of training that people can receive. For example, our officers go through a police academy. But outside of that, they are going to work, and they work a stressful job. They work long hours, and then they have their time off for their families or other things. They are not necessarily using that time to do more training. Some do, but most don't. They have a busy life. What we're proposing is to take that directive and make it real by providing the resources so that the officers can receive the training that is in the directive. Without the training, without the resources, without the tools, that leaves the idea that the police will never get better. We will reduce the police. They will not be available. We will limit their interaction. We will replace them with something else. And what we are doing now that I'm saying is unintended consequences is without better training and tools. You're simply creating restrictions, prohibitions, punishments, being fired, being sued, and saying that's going to create a better police department. It's not. It's just going to create a police department of people who cannot and will not do their jobs, so that when that 911 call is made because your life is being threatened, people may not respond or may not respond in the way that you want. Yes, if you can call a social worker, that's fantastic. If you can get a counselor, a psychologist to come out, that's great. But the call is man with gun. It's not man with gun who needs to be talked to by a psychologist and a counselor. That's not the call. So I don't know of any social workers who are rushing out to the call man with gun, man with knife. That is a police officer. And that police officer can assess the situation and then call a counselor, a social worker. That is what we're trying to make part of training and make sure that the officers are certified and that the city is doing its part. Bad police officers is the fault of this administration and this council. You not just blame the police officers or the police department. They work for the city. They are city employees. They are our employees. Our duty is to provide them the equipment and training they need. I think it's a great idea. Someone raised here, one of our council members, and several wanted to go look at a police academy and do citizens training. I think that's a great idea. I think people who don't know anything about policing, who don't live in high crime neighborhoods, who have never been surrounded by people trying to hurt them or take their life, who do not need to call the police department and require immediate action, as many of our citizens do, can make up rules that are just words on a piece of paper. So I will rework the resolution, but the resolution is really a request to the city to create a practice and a policy, and then they will have to submit budget in order to make that policy and practice a reality. That is where we come in. We can approve or disapprove the money that they ask for. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
Thank you, Council President. When I put in my speech for the majority, it was in reference to an event this weekend regarding Smith Playground, which is having their second annual slide-a-thon this Saturday. And they're having an all-star slide team, which is going to include State Representative Donna Bullock, former Eagle Connor Baldwin, as well as KYW News Radio anchor Denise Nakano. And that will be this Saturday at Smith Playground. And I'm always fortunate to support Smith Playground because they've done such great work, and is an institution in our city that very many of us are familiar with their internationally renowned wooden slide. And they've been fortunate enough to host our annual Autism Play Day at Smith Playground. So for those of you who are able to participate this Saturday, come out to Smith Playground. It's been fully renovated, and they've done some great things there. They've really done phenomenal work in the park, and it's been an institution for numerous years in our city, and I hope you can support Smith Playground. But I have to follow up some commentary that was made this morning in our council session. Unlike others of this body, I'm not going to try to speak for all citizens in the city of Philadelphia. But I think the phrase mythology was raised in reference to some of the issues that were discussed and has been discussed here in this city and across this country regarding the challenges with police. And I think the mythology is that you can just increase training, and we do need to increase training. I've been a very strong proponent of additional attempts and needs for training for those that have physical learning differences like autism, and we need to increase training. But the simple perspective that if we just increase training, that's going to change some of the challenges that we've had in the interaction with police. I, from my perspective, don't believe to be true. I think that's the mythology, which is the mistake, just by increasing training. And I can only speak from my experiences as an African-American man and the interaction I've had with the police department, in particular as a former assistant district attorney, and when I was an assistant district attorney being racially profiled. I don't think additional training would have changed that dynamic that I was racially profiled when I was actually coming from the district attorney's office, probably subpoenaing some of the very officers that decided to racially profile me as I was going to my car, leaving the DA's office. So I think this is an ongoing conversation, a robust conversation that this body has engaged in and will continue to engage in as we move forward to not only address the gun violence issue in our city, but also make sure that people are not being racially profiled as we try to address these issues. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. This will be a significant part of our conversation, not only during our budget hearing, but as we interact with people throughout the city of Philadelphia. This is number one on our list, along with poverty, along with opportunities, along with resources, along with a whole lot of different things. So thank you so much.
And one last point I failed to mention for Smith Playground, that if people could come at 1:45 on Saturday at Smith Playground for the activities and festivities. Thank you, Councilman.
Smith Playground. Remember that giant sliding board looked so big as a child. But that's interesting. 1:45, Councilman? 1:45?
That is correct. 1:45. Right. Thank you.
I might come see that. Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gauthier.
Thank you, Council President. Good morning, everyone. Today, May 13th, is the 36th anniversary of the MOVE bombing. On this date in 1985, the city of Philadelphia carried out a brutal attack on its own citizens. As part of an effort to forcefully evict MOVE, a Black liberation group, from their home at 6221 Osage Avenue, police fired over 10,000 rounds of ammunition in under 90 minutes at a row house containing children. When that didn't achieve the desired effect, city officials then made the unconscionable decision to drop a bomb on the home. This is among the only times in our nation's history that a police force has bombed its own people. That explosion caused a fire, which authorities allowed to burn. They didn't call in firefighters until nearly an hour later. And by that time, it was already out of control. 11 members of the Africa family, 5 children, and 6 adults lost their lives in that house. And as a result of the fire, 2 surrounding city blocks were burned to the ground, destroying 61 homes and leaving 250 Philadelphians homeless. To this day, not a single person has faced criminal consequences or been held accountable in any meaningful way for these brutal acts. To this day, justice has not been served. Last year, this body passed a resolution formally apologizing for the events of that day in 1985 and establishing May 13th as an annual day of remembrance in Philadelphia to honor those we lost. I want to thank all my colleagues for supporting this important effort. It is vital that we reflect on these painful and harmful moments in our history. We need to fully reckon with what happened that day. We need to understand it and remember it so that we don't ever repeat it. And furthermore, we need to recognize the pain and trauma that these events have wrought upon the Cobbs Creek community and Black people in our city as a whole. We are very much still dealing with the consequences of this tragedy in our communities today. Just last month, it came to light that the remains of at least 2 of the Africa children were mishandled and given to the Penn Museum without the family's consent. These are the remains of children who died at the hands of the state, and even in death, they didn't receive even a shred of respect or dignity. It's disgusting and barbaric. The fact that our city not only killed 5 Black children, but then gave their bones away without any consideration for what their families' wishes were, demonstrates a lack of care and concern for Black lives. Philadelphians deserve a full accounting of what happened, and everyone involved needs to be held accountable for their actions. And finally, before I close, I would like to read the names of the 11 Philadelphians we lost that day and ask that we pause for a moment of silence in their memory. Netta Africa, age 12. Tree Africa, age 14. Phil Africa, age 11. Delisha Africa, age 12. Tommaso Africa, age 9. John Africa, Conrad Africa, Raymond Africa, Frank Africa, Rhonda Africa, and Teresa Africa. May we please have a minute of silence. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Day that will be with us forever. Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Councilwoman Gaultier. Lest we ever forget. Mr. President, I wanted to note for the record that when we as a city made the announcement earlier this week that we would have a full June reopening, it was music to the ears of many small business owners in neighborhoods across the city of Philadelphia. And I know I got a lot of positive feedback from residents of the 9th Councilmatic District. As we continue to proceed in our efforts to get through our budget hearings and we begin to formally negotiate on what our final budget would look like. I want to say to those who are a part of that industry that I've been talking about, and I made mention of this during our budget hearings when our finance director and our budget director were in front of us, that the one thing economists on each side of the spectrum appear to be agreeing on is that they are predicting a K-shaped recovery. And for the benefit of the viewing public, Mr. President, that is noting that those at the top who are richer are expected to get richer, and that those with less means will either become more poor or that they will just flatline. And at the top, Mr. President, those industries that are expected to recover quickly are those in the field of technology, retail, and software services. But those industries are needing the most assistance, where the most Black and brown people work, are travel, entertainment, hospitality, and food services. And Mr. President, this data is from the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. It's with that in mind, Mr. President, that I want to say to Visit Philadelphia, to Greater Philadelphia Cultural Alliance, the Greater Philadelphia Hotel Association, and our Philly-based members of the Pennsylvania Restaurant and Lodging Association, that we hear you, that we know there is a need for us to do as much as we can to front load federal stimulus dollars in this budget to fund a robust marketing and tourism comeback in our region, so that we can address the issues that we need to hear, like gun violence, and ensuring that there are economic opportunities for all Philadelphians and that they can be put on a path to self-sufficiency. So I just wanted to note for the record, Mr. President, that your calls are not falling on deaf ears. We hear you, and you will hear more from us about this issue in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. It does not appear that there are additional speeches on behalf of the majority. So with that, I would like to recognize Councilwoman Parker for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, May 20th, 2021 at 10 a.m.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded that council stand adjourned until Thursday, May 20th, 2020, 10 a.m. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you all very much. And again, be safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Philadelphia, it's State Representative Joanna McClinton. The stakes in this year's district attorney's race couldn't be higher. For decades, the DA's office devastated Black communities through brutal punishment while never holding police accountable. DA Larry Krasner has changed that in just 3 short years, while his opponent spent 35 years relentlessly pushing the policies that destroyed our communities. We cannot let him take us back. We have everything to lose. We must keep moving forward. Vote now, vote early, vote Krasner for DA on May the 18th.
Paid for by Krasner for DA.
We do all we can to ensure our kids are happy, healthy, safe, and strong. Having high-quality, low-cost health insurance helps make that possible. With CHIP, your child can have medical, dental, eye care, and more for free or low cost. Whether you're self-employed, unemployed, or your employee benefits are just too expensive, CHIP is there for you to help your child be strong. CHIP Strong. Apply or renew today at 800-986-KIDS or go to chipcoverspakids.com.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars. Tune in every Saturday at 6 p.m. to Recovery Talk 101 with your host, Rick Ford, talking about addiction, treatment, and recovery. Right here on WURD Radio.
This WURD Wellness Vignette is brought to you by Keystone First. WURD Radio presents the following wellness tip to support our listeners with mindfulness and motivation as we continue to navigate the pandemic together.
This is Halana, your resident expert health and wellness coach, with tips to help you stay well. Let's talk about your choice not to smoke. Now, of all the healthy lifestyle choices you can make, this could be the most important. Did you know that smoking causes cancer, heart disease, and even type 2 diabetes? Smoking is also responsible for upwards of 440,000 American deaths per year. Here's the thing. When you smoke, it becomes difficult for the blood in your body to flow freely, often leaving you tired and cranky. It also contributes to the decrease in circulation, which can severely affect your immune system. In a time where we need our immune system to be in tip-top shape to keep us healthy and safe, choosing not to smoke is one of the best choices you could make. Commit to living smoke-free today and boost your immune system in as little as 1 day. Let's choose to strengthen our immune systems, improve our lung function, and decrease our risk for stroke or heart attack by not smoking. Choosing not to smoke is something we can all do to support our overall personal and community health. Go ahead, commit today. Stay well with WURD. Happy, healthy living.
Stay well with WURD. Connect with us at wordradio.com. This WURD Wellness Vignette was brought to you by Keystone First. For more information, visit KeystoneFirstPA.com.
Anthony Wright was wrongfully convicted of murder after he spent over 2 decades in prison. DNA exonerated him. In 2016, Carlos Vega re-prosecuted him anyway.
I was in prison, convicted of a crime that I didn't commit. Every single person that was involved was corrupt. I think about Carlos Vega. I think about the devil. I think about racism.
Vote now. Vote Krasner for DA. Paid for by Lawrence Krasner for District Attorney.
Breakthrough of Greater Philadelphia is a free academic enrichment program providing 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students with high grades and motivation. Join them June 28th through August 6th at Germantown Friends School. For information, call 267-255-9651.
Want the latest in WURD swag? Check out the shop tab on wordradio.com. Hoodies, tees, and more in a variety of colors. The shop tab on wordradio.com. Show the world that you're all about black. Talk media. This is WURD Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black. Talk media. Reality check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, let's open up those phone lines. We're back at it. We're now transitioning from City Council Live to Reality Check. It's Reality Check Thursday. Phone lines are open after we hear the Philadelphia City Council convening as a whole. So 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Phone lines are wide open. There was quite a bit of discussion in Philadelphia City Council today, and would like to get your thoughts and your reflections on it. So some important discussion and actually quite dramatic and at times, I have to say, comical. It's just a somewhat comical session of City Council today, particularly after the tabling of a bill that was introduced by Councilman David O., Republican member of City Council. It's a bill regarding encouraging expanding minimum use of force by Philadelphia City Police. But when you do look at Philadelphia police policy, there is a directive already in place for moderate and limited use of force for minimum force. So minimum force by Council member Helen Gim is correct. Minimum force has been a policy. It looks like it was put in place in 2015, or at least the current updated policy that is in place. The current policy that we see that's in place that was at the Philadelphia Police website was put in place in 2015. At least the current one that they're working off of. It was updated last year in 2020. Obviously in response to what had happened with George Floyd and that season of unrest. And so basically, Councilmember Gim basically saying, one, that this bill, that David O's bill was redundant. Like, what's the purpose of it? Because we already have minimum. So, and what we need to focus on, this is what she was saying, what we need to focus on is expanded de-escalation training and tools, procedures and policies, looking at, a whole de-escalation strategy, because apparently, we have minimum force, but we're still dealing with these issues of excessive use of force, across the nation. And, there are occasional flashes of it in Philadelphia. People still concerned about that, and occasional flashes of excessive use of force or not exercising restraint in interactions with residents, with citizens. So, and she also saying that it's disparaging the efforts. She's arguing that there have already been extensive efforts by the council to work on this issue, to work on it in a much more comprehensive way. David O doubling down, still saying, hey, this bill is necessary, and David O also saying that, bad police officers are the fault of the mayor and city council. Police must be equipped with better training and tools. My bill is a request to the city to create a practice and a policy and to have a budget for it. So he's like expanded training or expanded budget for training, more training of police officers. Councilman Derek Green interjected and was saying, hey, you know what? That's mythology. Those are his words. There's this mythology that all it takes is increased training. That increased training of police will eliminate racial profiling and excessive use of force. And, it's been my experience, as Derek Green was saying, as a black man and others, that this is just not the case. That is just simply not that. It's got to be a lot more, and that's what we've been working on, and that's where Councilmember Gim was coming in. There is some exchange. Apparently, I inadvertently triggered an exchange on Twitter between Councilman O and Councilmember Gim. So they're going back and forth at it. There's several tweets that were exchanged between the two as a result of, he's still, okay, here's David O coming back at it again. So on Twitter, this is fascinating. What I had tweeted out was that, I was quoting some of the conversation, which I do all the time, every City Council Live. If you're on Twitter, hashtag City Council Live. So I was making a comparison. I copied and pasted the Philadelphia Police Department directive. That's 10.2. Directive 10.2 is use of moderate limited force. That's the policy that Councilwoman Gim was referring to. And I put that alongside the bill that Councilmember O introduced, just to show, hey, here's a quick glimpse. And, these look and Gim is making the point that this is kind of redundant. And so then she responded to both myself and also David O, saying not just redundant, it broadly disparages efforts that our council body has put in place, including a ban on chokeholds and tear gas, and current efforts to address racial profiling and vehicular stops, and the establishment of a police oversight commission. So, and she zeroed in on some language that she has problems with. David O responded, a directive is an instruction, like telling a person how to properly shoot or dribble a basketball. However, it takes practice to do it properly, especially under stress. What's the opposition to training police officers to use no force or minimum force under stress? To which Councilmember Gim replied or tweeted back, you need to answer to why all but one of your colleagues felt it was an inappropriate resolution and voted to table it 15-2. This was deeply problematic to council overall, to which Councilmember O responded, "You need to explain why you oppose training police officers to use no force or minimum force during a confrontation." He's kind of laying a trap there. So if you notice. Anyway, let's we'll continue to talk about it. Phone lines are open 215. But once again, if you're on Twitter, go to hashtag City Council Live and you'll see some of that exchange. 215. That literally just happened. That's happening in real time on Twitter, and it was a response to a tweet I put out. I wasn't making a statement. I was just like, hey, look, you know, this is the directive. That's the policy, and here's this bill. Check it out for yourself. And the two are having an exchange, having a moment there on Twitter. It's a bit testy. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let's go to Tyrone out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Mr. Tyrone.
Yes, peace and blessings, good brother, and much love and respect to my WURD family. You know, once again, Brother Charles, man, I got to give you your accolades, man, for your foresight and insight, not only here, but, you know, once again, you were shining real brightly on the Al Sharpton show, man. You just, for whatever reason, man, you just had this persona, man, that when you're doing that national piece, man, you just one of our shiny stars, brother. I sure enough want to, appreciate you for that. You know, Brother Charles, I'm saying this over and over because I believe it has to be said. You know, irregardless of how we are battling and what we think about politicians, right now we got to participate in this process. I know the local election and the state election, but we got to not lose the momentum that we have gained in terms of moving out that irresponsible, hateful, administration that is still running a lot of different things in this country. And I'm just trying to remind folks that we do not want to back up, because one of the things that we know for a fact that, 47 states, I believe, is trying to create voter legislation that's going to impede and try to, suppress and depress our vote. But the thing is, they have been doing this over the last 20, 30 years, my brother. And we got them on the run because we were able to overcome all the stuff that they threw at us and still made a statement that, right is going to, subdue wrong. And I'm going to close with this. Brother Charles, I'll never forget when the judge said that the Republicans was strategically and therapeutically, coming up with schemes that would give them power. And ladies and gentlemen, they are exceptional when it comes to creating legislation to hold and maintain their power. So that's why right now we got them on the run, and we got to stay focused and make sure that we participate in this process. We cannot let them get back in power again. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you too, Brother Tyrone. I really appreciate that. Appreciate the kind words. And so, it was a good, healthy. It felt like it was one of the stronger, more solid debates that I've watched and that I've participated in or had the pleasure of putting together and over the years. So I've been engaged, not just in Philly, but in other places. I've been engaged in a few. So yeah, I was quite pleased with the outcome. So let's see what happens. Let's see if it like shifted anything too, not just the conversation, but if it shifts anything on the ground when we get to Tuesday. And you're absolutely right. I mean, voting is, too many people act like voting is like playing the lottery. And so like if they don't hit it, then it must not work. So you're like, well, I didn't hit it. So it's not, voting, it's a long game. And so, and the more you vote and the more people voting, the closer you get to that eventual change. The closer you get to the outcome you want. And that's how that process works. And it's process laden. So, it's funny, in a place like Philadelphia, we're fine with our sports teams. Like, we brag about, like, yeah, remember we were bragging, especially like when the Sixers hit the playoffs. Yeah, trust the process. Like, y'all have like high tolerance for like lackluster season sports teams following a process to eventually get to a playoff or a championship. We have high tolerance for that, but don't have tolerance for a process that actually has a direct impact on your lives. Like, I don't get that. I don't get that. Like, someone has to explain that to me, as far as like the very still abysmal, cyclically low voter turnout on local elections in Philadelphia. These are races that have a direct impact on your lives. What the Sixers do and the Eagles do and the Phillies, that has no bearing whatsoever on your life. It just gives you bragging rights. And that's nothing. But the election of DA and these judges do have these are life and death decisions that we all have to be a part of. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
What a clown show today. There was David O talking about stuff he knows nothing about.
That was
the sad part of it. Last week he was brilliant about the schools and the ionizers and the light tubes that kill corona. And then he comes with this week with his dunce cap on. He was up there talking and repeating himself. When the last time he been to a precinct? When was the last time he been up to the academy to watch their training? If you're going to talk all that stuff, you need to do a little research before you open your mouth. Mm-hmm. I get tired of these people thinking that, I'm going to be different and be stupid. And then what was Cheryl Parker's big thing to close it down so fast? What, she had to go do some shopping at the market or something? She wanted to close it down. No, we kept interrupting, showing no decorum for city council. It just kills me with this nonsense that goes on. And the bad part is on black people because we put up with it. Because they're definitely not following the sunshine rules for how the city council is supposed to run. Come on. How many times are they going to do this and we're going to sit there and say, hey, they did a great job? No, they didn't. They came in there and they played.
City council president was like democracy in action.
No, yeah. Now he was. Now I think in a slight way he was trying to make it like a joke. But you know what upsets me is when I see them when they go around and they do the roll call on a bill, and some people are totally not paying attention because they never answer. Yeah. See, I watch this, and I watch other cities in their city council, and other cities outside Philadelphia, and when they go into city council and when they get to speak, they can say something directly to their council person or who's ever in their district and say, hey, I got a problem with this. But not here. If you don't follow those bills, when Cheryl Parker just likes to read off numbers, then we don't even know what she's talking about. To say, I don't like that, or I got a problem with that. We never know. And they're going to do the same thing like you brought up, Charles, about the zoning. A lot of things they slip by, we pay no attention to because we have no idea what they're talking about. And then they have these secret meetings that most of us that actually have a job can't attend. They have it in the afternoon or times when we're working, so we can't attend. So I'm just going to keep it like this, Charles. Oh, Charles, I want to say this one thing about your excellent show yesterday with your roundtable.
Okay.
One thing you didn't bring up that's the most important about the technology. The children here in Philadelphia are not prepared to even indulge in that because of our school board. Hite been here a decade now, and he hasn't brought black teachers in. Or we should, matter of fact, Philadelphia, with all these great colleges here, we should have a school just for technology. Why aren't these things being done?
I suspect they would say that the science. What is it? Isn't there there's a magnet school that's dedicated to science? Which one? I just escaped me for some reason.
Well, that's okay. don't worry about that. But
so I think they would argue that, well, we do have that school, but I agree with you.
That's just for the elite, Charles.
Philadelphia
That's
school
for the
system's
elite.
not. Yeah, you're right.
Thank
The Science Leadership Academy.
Thank you, Charles.
Academy. All right. No, thanks so much, Maurice. No, but I agree with Maurice on that. Let's take a break. Let's take a break. Phone lines are open. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
From safe to seamless, convenient to contactless, and local to express, SEPTA is the Philly way to go. Plan your trip at iseptaphilly.com.
Hi, this is Philly Congressman Brendan Boyle, reminding you to please get your COVID-19 vaccine. Remember, the vaccines are free, safe, and the best way to protect you and your loved ones from COVID-19. And if your vaccine requires a second shot, please don't skip it. It's just as important as the first. If you want more information, you can email me at brendanboyle@mail.house.gov. Remember, Philly, our best shot at beating COVID is through the vaccine.
Paid for by official funds authorized by the House of Representatives.
This is not a fad for us. We will not resume our regular programming when things die down. We're not black to help our bottom line or because it's politically correct. We're not joining a fight. This has been our fight, our message, our people. Black lives have always mattered here. We are undeniably, indefatigably, unapologetically, permanently Black Talk Media. WURD. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
Okay, phone lines are open, 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Can I make just one statement, just kind of reacting to what Maurice was saying earlier, because I do agree, completely agree with that. I've been a big vocal critic of the superintendent of the school district and the school district itself. It is doing a poor job at preparing our young people in the city of Philadelphia for tomorrow, for the workforce of tomorrow, for the society of tomorrow. Like, as everything is rapidly advancing around us, so much about the Philadelphia school district is stuck in the 19th and 20th century, and a lot of that is by design. And so, yeah, I'm a big vocal voice. So I agree with him on that. Not preparing our children, I agree with people on that Philly Tech Week panel. That was a very important discussion we had yesterday. The points that they were making about how the city is making no steps towards really preparing our community, especially our young people, for that technologically advanced future. That future is here right now. But can we, just agree on this? Smart kids are not elite kids. Smart kids are not elite kids. Okay, just because you have smart kids does not suddenly make them elite. Okay, because there's a lot of smart kids that are growing up in our communities, in very distressed communities, from, modest, humble neighborhoods like the one I grew up in, where many of you grew up in, and they're working hard, trying their best to improve their condition, and we as a community should be backing them up. We should be backing up the smart kids. And we should be very careful about engaging in this conversation from time to time. And I see it happen. Sometimes I see people slipping out. We engage in this conversation where we're like, oh, those are the elite kids. And those are the kids that end up being like, who are trying their best and getting through a school system, a troubled, challenging school system like the Philadelphia school system, and doing their darndest. And then they become victims and targets. And some of it partly is due to that kind of language. We need to be real careful about that language, because there are a lot of kids who do go to those magnet schools like a Science Leadership Academy, and they worked hard, and they don't come from the best backgrounds and the best circumstances, but they're working hard. They understand what they need to do. Let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate that. Stop calling kids like that or insinuating that young people like that are elitists just simply because they're trying to improve themselves. And by virtue, improve our lot, because that's one of the steps it's going to take. So much about Philadelphia, I don't understand. Like, so many people in Philadelphia have this animus to being smart. Nothing wrong with being smart. Like, that's what we need. You need smarter. That's the reason why Philadelphia is such a funky place, and why it's so messed up. There's not enough smart going So that's what we should, especially in our community, in the black community, that's what we need to be celebrating. We need to be celebrating and encouraging and building up on SMART. We need more of that. Let me go to the phone lines. Mamie out of University City, who's calling in for a reality check. Ms. Mamie?
Good afternoon, Brother Charles.
Hey, good afternoon.
Yesterday, you all did a commendable job with the panel discussion and the debate. I thought it was excellent. It really helped with decisions, I'm sure, for those who were listening. It would be nice if there was some type of a PA system that could be blasted all over the city, maybe by vehicle or by some organization that has that kind of facility to help people who don't listen to WURD, which is the legacy of the great Dr. Lomax, under the leadership of his daughter Sarah Lomax Reese. And Miss Beverly is still holding down this initiative. Back when the MOVE organization was under siege and the children's bones were confiscated, I'd say, and they haven't been buried, there hasn't been a memorial. It is horrible to think that this kind of conduct is going on with people who are intelligent. I mean, these are our leaders. And I remember when that happened, I was living in Delaware County at the time, just across the bridge from the cemetery. And I went to my back door. I could smell the smoke. I could see it. And I cried the whole time because it was so hurtful.
Yeah.
Think that kind of conduct. We live in the United States of America. This goes on in other countries, I thought. And there's never been a memorial, really, to the MOVE family. And from all of the history, this never happened before. A police department killing their own people. But this thing about being trained, most professional and auxiliary organizations, they have continuing education, and you pay for it yourself. So why is it they got to be so privileged and they get a special budget? They're already getting paid, and they get paid a pretty good salary.
Yeah.
When back in the 80s and the early 90s, the school system over in North Philadelphia, I forgot what the name of the school was, but it was around 10th and Thompson. They had something that they promoted in the schools that the children would learn conflict resolution. And I think martial arts, like you suggested, is something that the police could implement on their own. There are a lot of organizations here in this city. But, yeah. Charles, I'm not going to hold you any longer, but I really love the programming from WURD. I think people should consider membership to keep this kind of, because we still have some real horrible times coming ahead.
Yeah.
And with the kind of things that you're seeing coming out of D.C., which is, it's just sad. But thank you, Charles. Keep up the brilliant work. And WURD is just dynamite. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Ms. Mamie. I appreciate it. So I kind of suspect, too, that part of the reason behind this bill for, because, and he's still going at it, Councilman O and Councilmember O and Councilmember Gim are still going at it a little bit on Twitter, but, you know, he's emphasizing appropriating the funds for a minimum training program. One thing we noticed from the mayor's fiscal year 2022 budget, is that he did not increase funding for the Philadelphia Police Department. It remains flat heading into fiscal year 2022. So I'm wondering if this is like a ploy to get more funding, to increase, because they know it remained flat. So, hey, this is a way we'll get more funding for the police department. I'm speculating here, but, I'm kind of doing a little game theory there. So I wonder, to Ms. Mamie's point. Let's go to the phone lines, and let's bring on Woody out of Winfield, who's calling in for a reality check. Woody?
Hey, man, all I know is your grandmother is very proud.
Hey, thank you.
I'm telling you, and for you to get the wisdom that she had to offer. So one thing about a mother is great, but a grandmother even brings more greatness because she brings in the wisdom necessary to add to the education that helps your smart come out, because everybody's smart. Because we're all intelligent beings as human, but to be trained properly, that's when it really shows. And it showed yesterday, and I was proud of that. You had just left, and I called in to try to catch you, to tell you, you were moving pretty fast. And the only thing I'm a little hopeful that maybe one day we will learn the wisdom of knowing that you can't know where you're going till you know where you came from. If you're going so fast forward, you are forgetting just about everything behind you because you're busy pushing the button to find out what you already know. I wrote a poem once that said you never learn as much as you already know. So keeping contact with that is important. Now, David O., right before he became a council person, I interviewed him myself on a radio show, and it was a very interesting interview. We have different people in council, and thank God that the majority are black people in the council, because if you do have people that understand your environment, then it's easy to talk to them. Now, when he said the training issue for police, once the police have to have all this training, then what we're going to do, we're going to have a problem, because all the police that did things that were wrong, you can't point at the cop, you point at their training. Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So now they become not so much responsible as the fact that they didn't get the proper training. So that takes the hook off the police who did that. When it's all about this country, the prejudice, the bigotry, the hatred, and the illusion of something we call racism, again, that's what divides us as a human race, to be able to see the bigotry and prejudice that's having to happen to a particular group of people.
And if the screening and hiring procedures were much more rigorous, for all police departments, then we wouldn't be hiring the types of individuals that harbor anti-black sentiments, and so we wouldn't have to worry about that training piece, because that's a big part of it.
The part you're missing, though, when you talk about the training, and I understand what you're saying, the issue here is, what about the training for those people who have taken the test? They're trying to get neighborhood people, but as I shared with you, many of them went to school with a diploma, got a diploma as a receipt for educational services never rendered. We need a bill that's going to help these inner city kids that graduated with these diplomas to be able to get to be a part of the police department. They're failing the test. Did you know that?
Yeah, no, I've heard.
That's the training. Let's get a bill for that.
Let me ask you this. I think that there's an opportunity here. And some people, this is a little controversial for some people. I think the policing is going through a moment. We need to, I would think that the policing profession would want to fix its brand, because it's really damaged. I mean, it's in an almost irreparable way. So why not like for Philly, leverage the Community College of Philadelphia, and you have to go through the Community College of Philadelphia to get an associate's degree to become a Philadelphia police officer.
Yeah, that sounds good if you can read, write, spell, or count. I'm going back.
Well, you shouldn't be signing up for the police department to carry around arsenal all day if you can't read. I mean, but to your,
from the city of Philadelphia and the state of Pennsylvania to say that you graduated, that's the crime, Charles.
Yeah. No, I agree.
So all I'm saying to you, I want to talk with you. I want to put a bill together. Let's get a bill to train the people that want to become police. If they have to go back to 1 to 5th grade, let's open up night school for the schools.
That's a good point you make. Yeah, that illiteracy problem in the region and the city is a big problem.
Education, Charles. That's it.
Because you got a lot of uneducated people on the force.
Yes.
I don't want to say that. It's that and they're angry. When you're uneducated, I don't want to say uneducated, but when you're illiterate or functionally illiterate, it makes you angry. you get angry and you take it out on other people. So I think that's a good point. Woody, I gotta let you go. I gotta take these other callers there, but it's a very good point. I do want to talk about that. That is something to pursue. Wick out of Center City is calling in for a reality check. She's been waiting patiently.
How are you today, Charles?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. There's 3 issues. One is, first of all, I want to thank you for your great show yesterday with your other 2 colleagues. It was a very, very informative education for the public. And pertaining to the current district attorney, all I would say to the black community, go back and remember 2 summers ago the Michael White case with the developer in downtown Rittenhouse. And if it wasn't for Larry Krasner willing to listen to the defense team to bring other evidence in that case, that young man that looks like my nephew, your nephew, my son, or someone else's son would be doing 20 to life today. That's number 1. Number 2, this bill pertaining to the sheriff sales that City Council has put on the floor pertaining to holding sheriff sales up till September of some time. Yeah. That whole process needs to have a deep, deep dive on what in the heck is going on with the third-party sheriff sale process. It's not that sheriff sales should not go forward, but so many people, before they get to that point, are going through such challenges and hurdles. And half the people, once they go through that process, they just give up. We need a crack, top-notch SEAL Team 8 of lawyers to help people navigate through that process, because the best of folks have a challenge navigating through it. Yeah. That's number 2. Number 3.
That's what those organizations get money for and resources for. And local NAACP in Philadelphia should be doing that kind of work. The local Urban League in Philadelphia should be doing that kind of work. Philly Barristers Association, Black Lawyers Association should be doing that kind of work. I don't understand why y'all have these organizations, start these organizations, and they don't do any work. I'm just putting that out there. I got a text from a rather influential person in Philadelphia who was, I can't name that person. I don't want to compromise their confidence. Very influential personality in Philadelphia who just texted me out of the blue and was like, the local NAACP is a mess. They were like, just out of the blue. It was just yesterday, sent me that text. And I'm like, yeah, I agree with you. I said, it's just a wholesale failure of black civic and political leadership in the city of Philadelphia. Black civic, political, influencer, community leadership knows that that the black population of Philadelphia has always had special needs, but they do not act and they do not mobilize like we have special urgent needs. And that has got to change. But so to your point, Wick, you're absolutely spot on correct. We do need those armies of lawyers. We used to activate and mobilize like that with, armies of lawyers. We don't do that anymore. People got comfortable. And so that's where, to me, that's like low-hanging fruit. And it's like, but instead, I bet you once everything lifts, we're out of pandemic, you know what's going to happen? All these organizations, they're going to go back to having galas and black ties. And y'all are going to let them. Y'all are going to think, oh, this is the way, just raising money so they can either like pay for little initiatives and scholarships and maybe people's salaries here and there, and then that's the end of it. You know what? It's time to demand change on it. We had this Philly Tech Week panel yesterday, and they were talking about lamenting how the city gave them just peanuts to do parties on black tech entrepreneurs in the city. Well, you know what? Next time that happens, reject the money. Reject the money. Like, we're not going to have a party. But see, they didn't do that, and that's one thing I didn't ask them about. I'm like, well, why don't y'all just reject the money? So we're going to have to set a new standard for leadership and the kinds of mobilization. If we know we have problems and there's urgency and we have special needs in this city, let's collectively start acting like that and pushing back against business as usual. Go ahead and finish up, Wick.
Charles, you're on spot. Charles, it's like, one of my great heroes was Muhammad Ali. Mm-hmm. And Muhammad Ali, when he would be asked to give someone recite a rhyme, Muhammad Ali would say, it's first me, then it's we. He went into the ring to fight for himself, but he was always bringing us with him. And that's how you make change. This is not a sideline or on the bench situation. You got to get into that fight, into that ring, and have hand-to-hand combat. And that's what the whole entire movement about these sheriff sales and these properties are all about. People are losing their properties because they don't understand the process. Period.
Period. Hey, Wick, thanks so much. I gotta take a break. And so that's why, like, once again, we have untapped infrastructure in our community that has been designed. The original design for those organizations was to do this kind of work that Wick just described. That's what these organizations were originally designed for. This is like you see it in their mission statements. And, you know, like, I understand, like, the system is going to do what the system does. White people are going to do what white people do. But what are we going to do? What are we doing? What are these organizations and these people we rely on who claim that they're leaders, what are they doing? Are they doing that work? Because a lot of this stuff is not rocket science to set up. It doesn't take a whole lot to set up. And so I agree with Wick. And people are thinking, well, that's too much. No, this is very doable. This is very doable to set up those kinds of guardrails and to set up that kind of community infrastructure, response infrastructure, to help guide people through issues like sheriff sales, to help guide people through issues like zoning. That's also incumbent upon the city's black political class to keep saying this. Like, you know, city council members, you know, the majority of the Philadelphia City Council is black, and they have an obligation. I mean, an obligation to the community, also to themselves. They want to keep getting reelected, and they want to also have a future where Philadelphia continues to have black members dominating it. Because, I mean, the way things are going, you're not going to have that kind of future in Philadelphia. So, you know, people need to really wrap their heads around this. I'm sorry, I need to take a break, and when we come back, phone lines are open at 215. Just stay on hold. I know there's a person or two on hold. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
Beyond the Seams is a husband and wife-owned business providing custom apparel services such as embroidery, screen printing, DTG, and heat transfer. The boutique also showcases local Philly clothing brands and art. Bring your vision to life at Beyond the Seams. Beyond the Seams is located at 828 North Broad Street. Don't forget to follow them on Instagram at BTSPHL. This ad is brought to you by the North Broad Renaissance and Trust Foundation.
Hello, this is Councilmember Isaiah Thomas urging you to vote for Judge John Padova on May 18th to keep this distinguished judge on the Court of Common Pleas. In addition to myself, he is also supported by State Senator Tony Williams, as well as State Senator Vincent Hughes, Representatives Joanne McClinton and Jordan Harris, as well as former Governor Ed Rendell and many others. Judge Padova is highly recommended by the Bar Association and endorsed by the Black clergy, as well as a lot of our local unions. For fairness, equity, and compassion, vote Judge Padova for all Philadelphians.
This is Judge Padova, and I approve this message.
Employers, are you hiring? WURD has got you covered. We just launched a brand new job portal to help connect you with diverse talent in Philadelphia and beyond. To have your job featured on our job portal, give us a call at 215-425-7875 or send us an email at sales@wordradio.com. Check out the job portal today on our livelihood website at wordworks.com. That's WURDworks.com and click jobs. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
Okay, welcome back. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be so important. That's the paradigm shift that I'm looking for when we emerge out of pandemic. Like, you know, it's just really focused in on and zero on the work. Like, I'm going to be so irritated when these organizations in the community are going to go back to doing business as usual. And, you know, and I'm going to get the invitations, you know, black ties and galas and fundraisers and cocktails and parties. And it's like, y'all need to focus on the work. Y'all already know each other. You don't need to do the networking. Focus on the work. Like, we need to get urgent, you know, so like, you know, like, for example, you had City Council leader, Majority Leader Sherelle Parker talking about parking jobs. Parking jobs are going to be obsolete within about 10 years. They ain't gonna have no parking jobs in Philadelphia in about 10 years. So less than 10 years, actually, about 9 years. That's based on research from major think tanks like the Brookings Institution. So when you're talking about like, okay, well, we got to try to save, like the conversation needs to go towards, just like Taib Smith said yesterday, we put on average $3 to $5 billion each sports stadium. Philadelphia has built 3 sports stadiums over the past 20 years. And we can't talk about $1 billion infusion of cash into, figuring out how to increase the skill sets of young people, of young black people in the city of Philadelphia to get them prepared for the future. But we're talking about parking jobs. We want to say parking jobs. Like, are you kidding me? So, it's getting in the mindset and getting to work and getting serious. I mean, the Neely Fuller school of thought on this, really. If you don't know who Neely Fuller is, check him out, go Google him, and pick up his book, which was written back, I think it was 1978. I grew up on that school of thought. Like, let's get down to business. Like, not just, silly tricks or for kids stuff. Because it's that urgent. It's really in terms of our condition and the climate and the politics and the economic condition and environment. We got a lot of work to do. Let me go to, I'm sorry, Sandra. Miss Sandra out of Oak Lane is calling in for a reality check. Miss Sandra?
Hi, Charles. Thanks for yesterday. You did us good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks to WURD and the Lomax family. So, the Philadelphia Police Department is having problems recruiting Philadelphians because of they can't read and agility.
Mm-hmm.
So, what does that say about the public school system? And why would Councilman O go into a thing about Aikido versus Judo for police officers if, they can't read? And so the excuse is, well, we have to hire people from outside the county because Philadelphia County residents can't read. I mean, when are we going to get a literacy program in this city? We need a literacy program in this city where for children, for young adults, and older adults who cannot read or write a complete sentence. That whole thing with Councilman O today was completely, in another orbit. I just didn't get it. So the other thing I wanted to ask, are you going to be doing anything on Bitcoin?
I am, yeah. It's something I've been looking at, and I've been talking to some people offline. I'm trying to decide on who to bring on to talk about that in an expanded way. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's my rant for today. I mean, we need. It's
not just Bitcoin. The whole thing they call it, Miss Sandra, is cryptocurrency. Bitcoin is like one
part of
branded. Yeah, like there's Bitcoin, there's Litecoin, there's Ethereum, there's a whole bunch of different types of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin being one of them. But Bitcoin there's Dogecoin now, Dogecoin. I personally am very worried about it. I'm concerned. I know everybody's hype about it. I'd be very concerned about it. You know how neighborhoods get gentrified? Well, your currency is getting gentrified. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I've been worried about it. I've been watching it for a while now.
Yeah, because I get so many advertisements on my phone for for this currency. And I'm suspicious. I'm like you. I'm kind of who's going to really benefit from this? But anyway, I'm hoping going forward we can address the illiteracy problem in this city, because with the voting, people can't read. They know numbers. Well, what's your number? What's your number? What's the button number? Because people can't read. I mean, we got to do something about the literacy. We need to go back to reading as fundamental programs, start that up again. We need something.
And let me let you go too, Ms. Sandra. I'm sorry I got to cut you off because we run up on time, but we will. We're going to continue to follow up on that. Let me go to George out of Center City, who's calling in for a reality check. You got 2 minutes, George.
I know, but let me run it real quick, Charles. First of all, O is dead right on this whole police thing here. You got to realize, in council, they all disrespect O because he come up with stuff that they can't qualified to come up with, and they boss won't permit them to speak about it. When O said about training, when the last time a police officer that been on the force for about 14 to 15 years had training? When he was in the academy. That's when he had training. Then yesterday you had the police commissioner come in there to council before the budget and totally disrespect the president of the council. Talk to him like he was a sucker. But she don't know how vindictive and petty he is. Oh, believe me, that $19 million budget they got, it's going to get sliced and diced. And for your girl, Sherelle Parker, who always got to be the star of the show, hollering and screaming, butting in. I mean, what she was talking about was totally out of order. Totally out of order. She just says things and don't even know what she's talking about, and no one there to check them. Now, the budget, Charles, the budget is going to get passed no matter what. I mean, that's the way it goes. And the police y'all keep talking about, the police commissioner herself only listens to McNesby. And if you don't believe it, ask yourself when the last time you've ever seen her stand up there with Krasner or, saying she agreed with Krasner. She pretty much agreed with everything the police FOP says about him. So, therefore, she's in charge, and it trickles on down. Cops don't do their job, and she don't care. Everybody's y'all was on the wrong track yesterday. Instead of focusing on what really is going on, a lot of them was focusing on their own personal preferences of things. Things don't work the way it worked in the days of Wilson Good and John Street. Those days are long gone. And the thing is that whose food you eat is whose song you sing. Everybody got a wish list that they think that the Kenny administration, and Kenny don't pay him no attention, none. He totally ignore them. You know why? They all in line for a thing called a check. Remember that, Charles. It's about dollars and cents. One other thing real quick, and I love Woody to death, but it's all the white folks in the city be trying to figure Woody out. Why is he always, berating people who can't read and write instead of teaching them how to read and write?
He's not berating people who can't read and write. I think that's a big issue, George. Like the city,
right?
You got a high number of adults in Philadelphia, and you also have just a 36% reading proficiency.
But Charles, what are you doing to teach them? What are you doing to teach them? It's one thing to berate them every day.
That's what we got a whole school system that's supposed to be doing that job. I mean, Woody does what Woody does. I can't speak specifically to his program, although I know he claims he has a program.
Everybody know that the school system is a failure. Their job is to not.
Okay, well, but George, come on now. But come on, it's a school system that's getting $1.4 billion from the federal government. It's got a $3 billion budget. The job of that school system is to make sure that those kids are literate. It's a full stop on that. Come on.
You're right.
Are you really being serious right now by saying that, well, we shouldn't expect the school district? No, we should demand
I didn't say that. I said that their job is to dummy you down because of contracts and jobs.
Okay, well, how do we change that? Well, how do we change that? Well, first we need to get rid of the superintendent and get someone who really takes that job seriously, right? First step. Second step is we need to install a whole new mindset. We need to overhaul education. We're talking about abolishing the police.
How are you going to do that?
You really do need to do that. And I'm talking to people all across the country all the time about ways in which we do. And we talk about that on that program all the time in terms of different ideas and even different ideas that people are implementing elsewhere that aren't being taken advantage of in Philadelphia.
Charles, they're not interested in ideas. All they're interested in is giving a friend a contract.
Well, they better get interested because it's not in anyone's best interest, neither yours nor mine or anyone listening to this program or anyone living in this city. It's not in anyone's best interest.
Until you change the way they do business, it's going to continue to go business the same way. You can sit here and preach and talk about it all day, but you got people like Dwight Evans, Sherelle Parker, who constantly put people in charge of that school thing down there on Broad Street.
Well, then we got to figure out what's the plan to change that. Like I hear what you're saying, George, and I'm not totally disagreeing with you. I hear what you're saying. I'm just like, I gotta let you go, George. But I just can't. I'm not into like defeatism rhetoric. Woe be us, and like I need a plan. Like give me a plan. that's why you hear me getting frustrated. I don't totally disagree with you, George. I really don't. In respect to you, I know you coming from a good place, and I know you're coming from a place where you're privy to these conversations, and I do respect and appreciate that a lot. But I get frustrated and I lose patience, and maybe it's because I'm just a different kind of cat, and I'm just seeing things a different kind of way. I don't know from how other people are seeing it. I'm trying not to be naive about this, but to me, I'm kind of like, okay, well, what's the plan to change that? Like, because obviously that's not working. So if things are not working, then okay, well, how you fix it? So that's just that's the point that I'm making. So obviously we see that there is something truly that has truly run amok with the way things are done and led and managed in the city of Philadelphia. Okay, so what are we doing about it? That's all I'm at, and we really need to start steering the conversation towards what are we doing? What's our plan? Where do we want to be 5-10 years from now? What does all of that look like? All right, let's wrap this Thursday edition of Reality Check. Source with Andrea Lawford-Sanders is coming up next. So keep your radio dial, your word dial locked in. I want to thank Troy Wilmore. I want to thank everyone else as well. Thank you for a very busy weekend. Just putting up with me. So I appreciate it. And everyone in Philly and beyond, which is stay sharp, stay smart. Don't abuse people who are staying smart and trying to be smart. Let's all be smart. But more importantly, let's stay safe out there. All right, have a great weekend. Have a wonderful weekend. I'll talk to you on Monday, God will, at 10 a.m. sharp.